Your last chance to get out. Yeah. Robin held up the sign that says talk slow. Jeff, the previous president, used to say speak quickly. Jeff always has this thing of coming in my office on Friday and saying, how long is the sermon this Shabbos? So I told him that today is 40 minutes. I'm just messing with him. Oh, Cantor's trying to get away. Don't worry, they'll draw you back in. I can't believe I have never started a High Holiday sermon with this song. You know we have a song at the beginning of every High Holidays, and so I'm surprised that I never use this one. So you're going to know in 1 second exactly what song we're going to sing, because in a high school production of The Wizard of Oz, while I very much wanted to be the Scarecrow, for whatever reason, I got the role of Mayor of the Munchkins. It's something that people still talk about. Mostly my older brother, who got to play the voice of Oz. And I was Mayor of the Munchkins. But for today, since I'm now the rabbi, I get to be the Scarecrow. So if you'd like, you can sing along with me. I would prefer that. But if you don't want to, you can just appreciate my rendition that I want you to know I practiced very hard for and still got the role of Mayor of the Munchkins. You see, ready? I could while away the hours, conferring with the flowers, consulting with the rain. I had no idea you were going to do that. While my thoughts are busy hatching, if I only had a brain, I'd unravel every riddle for my individual in trouble or in pain. I think we should just stop this. I really wanted to get up here and say, I could while away the hours. Na 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 na. They still do it. Clearly, the lesson of The Wizard of Oz is teaching Dorothy that she is actually all three. Now, I know that you think that the message of The Wizard of Oz is that you have to leave home to come home. That in order to appreciate your surroundings, in order to appreciate what life is like at home, you have to leave. That even though her journey was in her dreams only, it was a journey nonetheless. But I think that the message of The Wizard of Oz is that she is competent. That she is a version of herself that was made famous in the movie called The Help. You're smart, you are kind, you are important. The message to Dorothy is that she is smart, that she is feeling, and that she is courageous. And that is the entirety of my sermon this morning. You are smart, you are feeling, and you are courageous. While watching the movie or listening to the song, maybe you have thought, which character are you most like? Much in the same way that I have on Passover wondered which of the four sons I am. It's probably because I come from a family with 4 boys. And there's no question which one I am. Mom. But the reason why we immediately go to think of who we are, of the choices that exist, is because early on in life we are often pigeonholed. And then we spend the rest of our lives trying to either live up to that expectation or trying to defy it. Maybe you remember the movie The Breakfast Club, in which each character struggles with who they are. There is the jock and the brain, the derelict and the odd one, the pretty and the spoiled one. So you know that none of us are one of them, that we are a composite of all the types of people that are out there. You're not the evil child. You're not always the wise one. You're not even the one who doesn't ever know how to ask. Depending on the circumstances in which you find yourself, you are always a combination of all the different types of people that exist in the world. Today, I ask you to be all of who you are here in this sanctuary and then when you go out into the world. In our tradition, that is referred to as shlemut, a sense of wholeness, that we are a composite of lots of different things, but that when we embrace all sides of self, we're fully whole. In the language of medicine, it's called holistic. And here today, you get to be in full expression. It's funny, we come on Purim wearing costumes as if we can ever cover up who we are, as if we have an opportunity to try on someone new. Today I ask you to stretch yourself just a little bit further. And then over the course of the next 10 days, whether you find yourself here in these seats or somewhere else, you will experience joy and sadness. You may laugh over the next few days as we sit together, and you may cry. You may be moved emotionally, and hopefully you will be challenged intellectually. You see, that's what Judaism requires of us. It begs of us. It asks us to be holy with a W and holy without one. You may be familiar with the Shema and the sentence that asks us to bring ourselves fully, wholly here. And that is, Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavecha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'odecha. You should know I'm fully confident that that's where the Wizard of Oz got the idea of three separate beings. B'chol levavecha, with all your heart. B'chol nafshecha, with your soul. B'chol me'odecha, with all your courage. You shall love God with all that you are, with your heart, with your soul, with your might. Don't dismiss any part of yourself. And while the rabbis have a very clear idea of what those three things mean, after a long discussion in the Talmud, it's just a simple way of saying, be engaged fully. Don't dismiss a part of you. Maybe we can say to ourselves, B'chol levavecha, with all emotions. B'chol nafshecha, with your intellect, your brain. And then finally, B'chol me'odecha, with courage. It takes tremendous courage to be Jewish today. You may have seen outside those blue pins, hashtag Blue Square. The Kraft Foundation has made them available to synagogues all across the country. Because while we represent 2.9% of the American population, we are subject to 55% of all hate crimes. It takes extraordinary courage to be Jewish today. I remind you, God doesn't ask of you to do something you can't do. If God requires our entire being, we must have the capacity for it. Each of us has courage. Each of us has intellect. Each of us has deep emotion. For far too long, so many have lived their lives as Jews without thinking about it. We live in this great American democracy where freedom of religion is protected, and we understand that our Judaism is here for us when we want it. but it can be so much more. Judaism can be more than just around when we want it. It can enhance our lives. Being Jewish is a powerful way of being. Judaism is more than just life cycle events. It's more than just social action. It's Judaism that's more than holidays. Judaism can be inspiring and deeply spiritual and give us a sense of awe in our lives. And not just because it reminds us of how to live powerfully, but because, as Dacher Keltner, who wrote in his new book, The New Science of Everyday Wonder, and how it can transform your life, says, awe is almost always nearby. And it's a pathway to healing and growing in the face of loss and trauma that are a part of everyone's lives. Spirituality, for me, is an easy equation. If you want to live spiritually, all you have to do is combine these three ingredients. You have to find the nexus of courage, of intellect, of emotion. That is spirituality. When we engage with our liturgy on an emotional level, on an intellectual level, and we allow ourselves to be challenged by it, then we find great, deep spirituality. Spirituality is when you're courageous enough to open yourself emotionally and intellectually at the exact same time. When something challenges you deeply to think and to feel. That's why I've said to so many, while we find ourselves here in these seats, on these high holidays, I say meander yourself through the Machzor. Wander about the pages. Find something on the pages that engages you. Take a look at the sides of the pages, not just what's in the middle. That's why we say, when we're praying for someone whom we love who is taken ill, Yehi ratzon milfanecha Adonai Eloheinu le'avotenu shetishlach mehera refuah shlema. Refuah shlema min hashamayim, refuat haguf, v'refuat hanefesh. When we pray for someone who is ill, we say, God, please restore them to health, both of body and of heart. May it be your will, Adonai, our God and God of our fathers and our ancestors, that you send quickly a complete recovery from heavens, healing of the soul and healing of the body. Healing of the soul and healing of the body. Then we begin to ask and understand what we're really asking for, and understand we can be moved more powerfully, more courageously than we might ever have imagined. It's why so many feel most spiritual in nature. Kelter, in his book, continued, how does awe transform us? By quieting the nagging, self-critical, overbearing, status-conscious voice of ourself. It quiets our ego and empowers us to collaborate, to open our minds to the wonders and to see the deep patterns of life. Seeing the beauty of nature is only part of it. Realizing the intricacies of the millions of years of evolution that brought this world about is truly awesome. There is a wonderful teaching that is brought to us by the creation story in Breshit, Perek Bet, in Genesis chapter 2. It's a great lesson from the tree of knowledge. Vayitzmach Adonai Elohim mina adama kol eitz nechmad lemar'eh v'tov lema'achal ve'etz hachayim b'toch hagan ve'etz hadat tov v'ra. And from the ground, God caused to grow every tree that was pleasing to the sight and good for food. With the tree of life in the middle of the garden and the tree of knowledge of good and bad. This great commentary, this Sforno, an Italian rabbi from the 16th century, said something remarkable about the power of bringing one's full self to our own interaction with the world. Nechmad lemar'eh. It says in commenting on that text, it was pleasing to the sight. He teaches something remarkable. Nechmad lemar'eh misamech umarchiv halev lahachino lekabbalat hashefa hasichli. Using the language of Maimonides, shefa hasichli, the agent intellect, he reminds us that looking at trees results in experiencing an intellectual stimulation, both of the heart and of the brain. So here's the real problem. We have bought into the dualism of Hellenism, that we're separate parts, that there's a body and a soul, that they're different and unconnected, that when we die, our body goes one place, our soul goes to another. That's a Hellenistic idea. The idea I'm trying to put forth today is something quite simple. They're connected, and in this world they're attached. And maybe they're not even two separate things. One quote that has inspired me for so long has challenged me this season. Louis Finkelstein, who was the chancellor of the seminary, used to say that because he was raised in an Orthodox tradition, that he couldn't pray with the people he studied with, and he couldn't study with the people he prayed with. Because prayer was an emotional experience and study was intellectual. And he went on to say that when he studies, that's God talking to him. And when he prays, that's him talking to God. The language of our tradition teaches us and engages us intellectually. The prayer text inspires us emotionally, to which I say today, challenge yourself to think expansively and to feel deeply. Today I say, we need a Judaism here at GHC and throughout the world that engages us deeply, emotionally, and intellectually at the same time, and that's going to take incredible courage. If our people are to survive, if our children are going to thrive in this building and throughout the world and care about each other and themselves deeply, then they have to be completely emotionally engaged and intellectually engaged at the same time. And if our children are to learn it, they have to watch us model it. So I say desperately, we need to be engaged emotionally and intellectually at the same time. So you may know that Elton John retired. He's done. Elton John's final concert was in Stockholm, Sweden. It wrapped up the British singer's farewell Yellow Brick Road tour. Can't make this stuff up. If this didn't fit perfectly, thank God for Elton John. So that tour spanned over 5 years. It grossed well over $900 million. It was 330 shows, and most importantly, 16 Gucci suits. As he was concluding the concert, he said, "Fans will forever be in his heart, in his head, and in his soul." And I think he was just quoting the Shema. So my request is simple. If you want greater spirituality in your life, look for moments of awe. And then let them fully inhabit you. Let them find a place in your heart, in your head, and in your soul. Clearly, the lesson of The Wizard of Oz is that Dorothy is all three. Obviously, our lesson here today is to be the scarecrow, the tin man, and the lion. And if you are, then you'll be wholly Jewish. Shana Tova.